One thing about it and two things for sure. If you're going to tell it all. Don't just tell the parts you want people to hear or people to know. Because that's not being authentic. That's trying to create a narrative so you can direct others' thoughts and feelings how you want them to go, instead of giving them the option to make up their mind for themselves by putting the shit all out on the table. Now, I'm not one to shy away from telling you about my story, my trials, my tribulations, my ups, my downs, my greatnesses, and my fuck-ups. It's all a part of the journey. It's all a part of the process. It's all a part of the story. What do I look like telling you about others and the things I have been through and the obstacles I have faced with others if I'm not willing to be honest about the obstacles I put my own self in, had to face and overcome? That ain't gonna help nobody. And in the long run, it'll make you look more like a hypocrite than anything. Yeah, I was around peer pressure, bad influences, negative energy. But at the end of the day, ultimately, it was still my decision to either be disciplined, self-controlled, or act a fool. Nobody forced me to drink that whole bottle of liquor, start fights, get into arguments. Nobody made me get zooted out my mind and start calling everybody and bleeding on people who didn't cut me. Nobody made me be drunk at work, catch a DUI, lose that job. Nobody made me spend hundreds of dollars on substances, just wasting it, squandering it. Nobody made me run back to people, places, and things that I knew didn't serve me. Now, I knew where my dysfunction stemmed from, but at the end of the day, the choice is mine, and I made my choice. Whether they were good choices or not so good choices, whether they were great choices or just plain out fucked up choices, they were still my choices to make, and I'm the one who has to take responsibility for those choices. So in order to move forward and make better choices and better decisions for my life, I've got to get to the root of the problem. I've got to heal whatever is ailing me. I've got to work on things that trigger me. I've got to stop doing what I know does not serve me, because if I've done it before and had results that weren't great, then that's not the choice I need to make. A lot of the times we tend to forget that our choices don't just impact us, they affect other people. What if that DUI could have turned for the worse and I could have hurt somebody or hurt myself? What if that coke would have turned to crack? What if that crack would have turned to smack? Those decisions and those choices that I made, I became homeless because I became broke, because I was broken. It took strength to pick myself up by my bootstraps, even when I wasn't always healed, because I knew I had to do it for myself because nobody else would. Now, true indeed, I did receive financial help along the way by family members, assistance from friends, etc. But at the end of the day, I still needed to want to do right by me in order to put my life together, in order to be somewhat of a good person, a decent mom, though not perfect. I didn't want to be running from pillar to post. I didn't want to not have my own source of income, transportation, looking for booger sugar in the carpet, so drunk that blackout was a normal thing. Don't even remember what the fuck happened the day before. When I stopped wanting to do that to myself, I started getting my shit together. Even if it was piece by piece, brick by brick, little by little. even if I backslid and stumbled and went back to old habits. And it's very easy for you to do when you're a recovering addict. And it doesn't always have to be substances. It can be people, places, and things that don't serve you. Going back to the club, exes that should have been nexus, bad money management, buying what you want, then begging for your needs. I've been there. I've done that. That's why I'm talking about it now. That's why I'm sharing it with you. Because if there is a will, there's a way. But you gotta want it. You gotta want it. If you want it bad enough, it will happen for you. And you don't have to do it by yourself. In fact, it's best not to do it by yourself. But just be careful that the people you surround yourself with aren't people that are doing those things too. And are people that really want your best interests at heart. Because the sad truth is, a lot of people like you until you surpass them. Oh, you was all good when you was their drinking buddy. You know, when you was their smoking buddy. When you was their ski slope buddy. But when you become that, I don't want to do that no more, buddy. A lot of times, they don't want to do you. They'll try to convince you, oh, it's just not going to hurt you. Just take a hit of this. Let's go have a drink. Let's go out and celebrate. Oh, it's ladies' night at the club. We get in free. That type of stuff. When you've made it apparently clear that you are on the journey to change. Those are boundaries that you have put up that they're not respecting. Because those are boundaries that they haven't put up for themselves. Yet, if at all. Those are the booby traps that you have to learn how to be strong. Especially when it comes to family. And you done got used to them. You know, everybody's operating in the circle of this. They're trying to guilt trip you, etc., etc. And they become familiar. So every now and then, yo. It happens. It happens. But when you're really aiming for change and you're going in a different direction, it'll eventually break itself off and they'll eventually show themselves for who they really are. Then they try to be nosy funny, is what I call it. Where you work at? Ooh, do they got any openings? Sure, you got to put in your application like I did. Ooh, you coming up, you fancy. You don't live in the hood no more. You got you a luxury apartment and all kinds of just shit. Some of them even have the audacity to ask you how much you make. Now, it's one thing if I decide to tell you on my own free will. And I've learned not to do that either. But it's another thing if you ask me. Because it's none of your damn business. How could you afford living over here? And some of them even got the nerve to go look up your apartment complex or the house that you may be living in just to see the price of the rent or the asking price of the house and check out the mortgages. And I've had that happen to me just to come back and say, oh, I know you paying this for this apartment. What? Thing about it is, can you pay that for this apartment? Why is you in my business like that? I remember when I moved to Buckhead, that's all I heard from nosy nobodies that didn't want to change. So long and short of it is that you can change. You can do it, but you've got to have the will to do it. You've got to want to get up every day and look at the direction of your life and say, this is where I want to be headed because this is what's best for me and my plans of how I want to live on this planet. Find your good team and support system, but just remember, it's really all up to you. I want to say thank you to all my new subscribers. Please feel free to keep up with me. And as always, sending love and light to you. Stay tuned.